Hey everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto lives in Tokyo hounded by demons, aliens, and the Sailor Senshi? What will he do with no allies or friends? Part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, ZeroTheDestroyer. Link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. I grew up in a small village located in the heart of Fire Country. Most of the citizens there called it Konoha, while merchants and clients called it the village hidden in the leaf. It was aptly named when you consider how trees seemed to surround the place from all sides. Growing up in the hidden leaf wasn't easy, at least not for me. From an early age I seemed to have garnered the hatred of people I didn't know, and most of these people seemed to go out of their way to make my life difficult. It wasn't anything major, like beatings or mob chases. It was much more subtle, much more calculated, and somewhat organized. Since I was only a little boy I didn't understand the full scope of the hatred these people had, so I chalked much of it up to coincidence. So the vendor at the food store charged me slightly higher than he did everyone else. What of it? He was having a bad day. So the girl at the clothing store sold me a beat-up orange bodysuit? No big deal, I liked oranges. So I couldn't go to certain restaurants because they weren't serving at the time, even when the place was empty. That's fine, people need a break from work occasionally. You would be surprised what lengths a child's mind would go through to rationalize the situation in his favor. A child will warp and bend the reality around him to make himself feel more comfortable to the surroundings, and act according to what the people want, and that is what I did, to an extent. I acted like a child that deserved their contempt, deserved their hatred, and I was paid back with even more of it. Things continued to escalate like this for 12 years, and I grew into a habit of antagonizing the people around me, and they did the same in return. I pranked, schemed, blackmailed, and shouted at any villager who made me angry, and they, in return, spread awful rumors about me. Rumors that most people seemed to believe, no matter how bizarre. It was from these rumors that the children I met in my academy learned about my character, without ever meeting me in person. They heard about me from their parents, and they heard about me from their neighbors, and what they heard they didn't like. I was a pariah, and very hated pariah at that. Unlike the adults, the children had little qualms about getting violent in order to teach me a lesson, and I endured their taunts. I was too strong to break, too angry at the world to bend to their will. And I had a spirit that called out for something more than just the hand life had given me. I studied, and worked, as hard as I could to be the best that I could be, and, for a time, it worked. It worked until I realized that no matter how good I was, there were certain things that kept me from being the best student, or even a moderate student, in the class. I couldn't make a simple illusion clone. You see, I live in a ninja village. We make our money by collecting jobs from other villages. We've been known to do some of the dirtiest deeds on this side of the elemental nations. And we would probably do this until someone powerful enough to stop us comes here, and blows up our home sky high, but I doubt that would ever happen. A person can only be a ninja if they manage to pass the ninja academy, and that's where I was enrolled in. You see, I never graduated from the place, and there was a good reason why. I died. It started after my third attempt at failing the academy test. I was told by my teacher, Mizuki, that if I could steal a scroll from the leader of my village, the Hokage, I would be able to pass. It was supposed to be a super-secret test only handed out in very special circumstances. Naturally, I was only too eager to prove to everyone that I could be just as good as they were, so I jumped at the chance to pass the test. I didn't even think about the consequences of my actions, or how illegal my actions were. I was just so desperate to pass. That's how pathetic I was. I was willing to go to jail, just so I could prove to the people who hated me that I was worth something. I was an idiot. A sad, pathetic idiot. That night I found the scroll in the Hokage's building, and stole it. That night I ran to the forest where I was supposed to meet my teacher to hand him the scroll, and that night I waited for him to meet me while I practiced the jutsu, a ninja art. The jutsu I chose to learn was, ironically, a shadow clone, a more advanced version of the clone that I couldn't even perform. The same clone that kept me from being your average student. You wouldn't believe how hard I struggled to learn for the few hours I had to wait for someone to come and get me. And you wouldn't believe how close I was to dying from chakra degradation while I waited. Of course I didn't care. I had to learn it, I had to. I had come so far, and I was so close. So desperate was I to get every aspect of the technique correct, to read every side effect, to completely understand every one of its strengths and weaknesses from the scroll, that I completely missed the shadowy figure that stood behind me. The shadowy figure that had reached down to my throat, turned it to the side, and severed the back of my neck from the rest of my body. You are awake. Thank goodness, someone says. Your reading said that you flatlined. Oops, sorry, I suppose you wouldn't know much about that, would you? A hand reached down to touch my arm, and something pulled me up, and leaned me against something else. I had a hard time seeing in front of me since everything was so blurry, but I had an even more difficult time trying to keep my eyes open. "I suppose you're still a bit tired," the kind voice said. "Just lay down on the bedpost, and I'll get a nurse to come here and feed you." I tried to tell the voice that I didn't need a nurse, that I was okay, but it wouldn't listen, and disappeared. My vision started to color, and I could slowly open my eyes again. I felt so tired, so battered, and I couldn't believe that I was this pitiful. From an early age I had always had a strong constitution, and most of my injuries seemed to heal on their own. I didn't understand why, and I never questioned the reason, but now that I was in a hospital, or what looked like a hospital, I was seriously considering what exactly happened to me to be in this position. I moved my hands on the bed, and tried to push myself off the white sheets that covered my body, and found to my surprise that I could barely move it, as if I hadn't used my arms for a very, very long time. It barely even felt like my arms, as if I was in someone else's body, but that couldn't be right. I looked to a mirror at the side, and saw that was the case. I really wasn't in another body. For some reason I felt like I had to sigh in relief, and shook my head at the sheer stupidity of my action. Gritting my teeth I figured that I had enough time to introspect, and so pushed myself off the bed, only to roll desperately to the ground in the next second. You see, my arms worked okay, but my legs were completely frozen. They didn't budge at all. I looked down at them, and saw why. They were encased in cases of white bandages. I think they called in a cast back in my village, but these casts looked different. They looked far more advanced, far more symmetrical, and much thinner. "What are you doing?" someone asks. "You really shouldn't be out of the bed. After all the injuries you came in with, I would have thought you would be more careful." The woman, who I noticed was rather short for an adult, bent down to pick me up. Or at least she tried to, because she gave up after a few attempts. I could imagine why. The casts on my feet must have weighed a ton, and I had a body of powerful coiled muscle, even if I was a boy bordering on the age of 13. "I'll have to call one of the interns," she mutters. She reached down to something that looked like a communication device, and said, "Please, bring Resident Chiba here. I can't move the patient on my own." Then she put the device back in her pocket, and frowned at my down form. "I suppose we will have to wait for that boy to arrive." As we waited I looked around my room, and was amazed to see how polished it was. It was so clean, so sterile, and a myriad of devices, including a TV, were stacked on the walls. Growing up in Konoha, very few people had access to a television, since they were expensive, and most people didn't have the luxury of technological goods. Here every part of the room seemed to have some kind of digital device attached to it, and I couldn't help but wonder if the person who ran this hospital was wealthy. Certainly they had to be if they could afford such incredible technology that only lords and ladies tended to own. "Is something the matter, boy?" the nurse asks me. "You're acting like you've never seen a TV before." I didn't want to tell her I've only ever seen one once in my life. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way she said it, or the way she looked at me like I was a strange oddity, but I couldn't confide in her. Though it could have just been that I didn't know her well enough. After all, you don't just tell someone you just met that the last thing you remember was a face and a shadow coming up from behind you, and sliding a kunai through your neck. "I've just never seen a TV that big before," I tell her. This got a raised eyebrow from the young nurse. "Where I come from they are smaller." "That is interesting," she tells me. "Considering how you were brought from the Juban district, I would have thought you would have seen the Megatron displayed in downtown Tokyo." I don't know what a Megatron is, and I certainly have no idea what Tokyo is either. "Why are you looking at me like that?" the girl asks. Her dark eyes, which matched her dark hair, truly looked puzzled. "You act like you don't know what Tokyo is." "Of course I know what Tokyo is," I tried to defend. It didn't seem to be working since the woman shook her head. "I just forgot, I am just tired. That's all." The nurse went silent for a moment, then conceded. Yes, I would imagine you would be." Her expression turned cherry. "We aren't that far from downtown. Perhaps we could arrange a visit there before you need to leave the ward." I didn't know why she was so excited. Downtown Konoha was never anything special, so what made downtown Tokyo so special? In either case I had to answer the woman, who seemed to have a split personality from serious nurse to childish teenager, before she got even more suspicious of me. Okay. I tried to move myself up, but failed. I sighed. "We'll go when I can move my legs." The girl nodded, and helped me lean against the bed rails. It must have been a strange sight. My heavy, bandaged form leaned on a bed, while I was on the ground, while her short, light frame waited patiently for the resident Chiba she had called earlier. Then I heard footsteps coming from the hall outside of the room. I could hear them because there didn't seem to be anyone inside of the hospital, since it was night, and I could hear the whistling of a boy, who sounded no older than 20, approaching my room. He knocked at the half-open door, and was allowed in by the short nurse. I've been waiting almost 20 minutes, the nurse says coldly. What were you doing? The boy shrugs his shoulders, helping Dr. Mizuno with a heart attack victim. The man just went into cardiac arrest, and needed to be sedated. I held him down while Dr. Mizuno made sure he didn't die. The nurse seemed to consider this, and she didn't seem happy. You should have told me. I would have gone to help you. She bit her lip. Chiba-san, is the patient okay? Chiba's easygoing expression slipped for a fraction, and something much more dark took its place, only for it to be replaced by something much more unreadable. I don't know. His body tensed, and he looked in my direction. Listen, you didn't call me just to hear about my day, did you? If that were the case, you would have asked me on a date, or something. The nurse snorts at the taller man, folds her hands over her chest. In your dreams, Chiba Mamaru. More like my nightmares, he replies back, getting a glare from the much shorter nurse. I'll take care of things on this end. Dr. Mizuno needs you. You should have been done feeding the boy. For some reason, I don't like the way he referred to me as boy, but I couldn't say anything to that. I couldn't say anything stupid, and I couldn't say anything that might give me away. I didn't trust these people, and I doubt they trusted me. Aside from Dr. Mizuno, who I gathered was the woman I barely saw when I woke up, I couldn't be sure if anyone here wouldn't try to kill me. Kill me like the man from Konoha. What's wrong? The teen asks. As the nurse left the room, he bent down to my paralyzed form, and put his arms underneath my shoulder. Can't move your legs, I see. He laughs. Sorry, bad joke. I didn't respond to his attempt at humor, and just frowned at him for a response. He shook his head, and carried me to the bed, but not before making a snide comment on my weight. According to him, I was pretty heavy for a boy barely into my teens. I wanted to tell him that I wasn't even 13 yet, that I would be 13 within a month, but I couldn't do that. They seemed to think I was a teenager based on my appearance, so I let them think that. It would probably be better for me in the long run. Less explanations. I am guessing Dr. Mizuno didn't tell you that she called child services, he said, taking a seat next to my bed, pulling the medical blankets over me. Which isn't that surprising since an emergency occurred. I didn't need to ask what kind of emergency since he already mentioned it earlier. I may not be as smart as Sakura or Sasuke, but I am no idiot. I just act like one. How bad is it? I ask. He looks surprised, and a little confused at the question. How bad is what? The guy with the heart problem, I answered him, as if it were the most obvious question in the world. What did you think I was asking? I thought you were asking about your busted legs, he says, but then looks guilty. Sorry, I didn't mean it that way. My eyes widen in panic, and I try to move my feet underneath my cast, trying to get some kind of motion from it. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens. I start to panic, and large hands grasp my shoulders, stopping me from breaking the white constructs attached to my legs. No, don't do that, he shouts. His dark blue eyes look at me with disapproval, and I hate myself for losing physically to this guy. I may have been shorter than him, but he sure as hell wasn't physically built like me. If I was better, I could probably have mopped the floor with his carcass. As I am right now, I can't even put up much of a fight, and he manages to subdue me. Just relax, and let me explain. His voice sounds desperate, somewhat pleading. I am sorry, I shouldn't have said busted. That's not what I meant, damn it, stop moving. I slowly stop struggling, and he sighs, and leans against the chair. For a guy of your injuries, you sure put up a fight. His face looks thoughtful for a moment, and then he rubs his temples. Dr. Mizuno is going to be pissed. She wanted to be the one to tell you this. Tell me what? I ask, sounding worried. Is it my legs? You said they were busted, didn't you? The guy nods. Sure, busted, but that isn't right. What I meant to say was they are broken. They work fine, but they will need to be healed, and it's going to be painful. He seems to wince. There are a lot of screws in your ankles right now, and we, by which I mean Dr. Mizuno, and her team, are going to remove them when most of your injuries are ready. That sounds fair. This is strange. I don't understand why that is such a big deal. So why were you afraid to tell me this? Because right now you are on pain medication, he says slowly. Once we stop giving it to you, you are going to feel it. He clenches his fists. It's going to be very, very painful. Bone regrowth is not a pleasant procedure. I sigh in relief. I thought it was going to be more serious. I thought it would be something more drastic. Like my legs no longer work, or that I would be paralyzed for life. I've never met anyone like that. But I can imagine that it must be painful to be so powerless in a village where some heroes are worshipped as gods, just because they could do incredible feats like break mountains with their fists, or travel faster than the speed of sound. You don't look particularly worried about the pain, he says. He looks at me like I am a puzzle. It's going to really, really hurt. I've been hurt worse, I tell him. This is true, though my healing factor seemed to have taken care of most of those injuries. Injuries from taijutsu matches with the other kids, and some of the rougher scruffs I got into with the upperclassmen when they caught me pulling a prank on them. I'll be fine. Okay. He looks like I just released a heavy burden off his shoulders. Do you mind not telling Dr. Mizuno that I told you? It's kind of important. He looks somewhat nervous. For a tall guy, he sure is meek when it comes to talking about his superior. I am just a volunteer resident, but I don't want to lose this job shadow position. I don't understand what is so important about that, but I nod my head. Sure, I won't tell her. Then I think about where I am right now. If you wouldn't mind giving me some information as to where I am. And so he started explaining to me about a country called Japan, a city called Tokyo, a district called Juban, and about the general secondary hospital I was in. Our conversation eventually switched to what his name was, which medical school he went to, what his hobbies were, and occasionally, about his friends. The first thing I discovered was his name. His name was Chiba Mamaru. He was a first-year medical student at a local university. He lives in a nearby apartment complex by himself. I didn't ask why he lived by himself, and not with his parents, and he didn't mention it either. He told me about the sites in the city that would be good for a visit, and told me he had a friend named Motoki that helped run an arcade that was also a tea shop. I had absolutely no idea what an arcade was, but nodded with false enthusiasm when he described it to me. Mamoru didn't seem to be the kind of guy who got around much, and from his description of the city it seemed like he stuck to places where people wouldn't normally bother him. He didn't talk about beaches, restaurants, or girls in his life, so I concluded that he was the solitary type. Of course I could have been easily wrong, but by the way the nurse treated him, I doubt it. Eventually our talk went the other direction, and he asked me about myself. This is where things got awkward because I realized that I wasn't in Konoha anymore. Wherever I was probably wasn't even in the elemental nations. Since that was the case, I talked very vaguely about my village, trying to make it sound like some of the places he described to me. From my description he seemed to have come to the conclusion that I was from one of the islands, possibly from Okinawa, but didn't ask me anything deeper. I just pretended like that was where I was from, and he asked me what life was like in such a small village on the islands, and I made up some bullshit story about how great it was. For some reason he didn't seem to believe this part, and this led me to believe that Chiba Mamoru was not as naive as I gave him credit for. You look like you are all better. A gentle voice wafts into the room, and I turn my face to the entrance, and I was wondering where my shadow was. Mamoru looks uncomfortable, and apologizes to her. He walks out of the room, but not before telling me to give him a call if I need anything. He lived nearby after all. For reasons I can't fathom, I actually don't mind the offer. I put the card he gave me into the pocket of the hospital gown I am wearing, and turned to face my doctor. I am guessing Chiba was so infatuated with telling you about his solitary life than actually feeding you, no? She asked dryly, looking at the meal beside my bed. Though I can guess why. You are an interesting specimen, Mr. Uzumaki Naruto. There, I said it. My name. Time for the moment of truth. Time to see whether or not I am really in the ninja world. If she gets angry, if she looks uncomfortable, if she suddenly tries to hurt me, I am going to know that I am close to the village. But all she does is snort. Interesting name. She takes the seat Chiba Mamoru was in just a minute ago, and hands me my plate of food. Naruto is not a common name. Uzumaki, perhaps, but certainly not Naruto. She observes my face, trying to find something. What? I don't know. I thought it would be something along the lines of Ben, Thompson, John, something European. I had no idea what that meant, and why my name should sound different from what it already was. Uzumaki Naruto seemed like a name, just like any other, and I've always worn it with pride. No, that's my name. I wanted to say believe it or don't you forget it, but I am not in the mood. I am so tired. Why should it be different? Simple, really. She folds her hand over her face. It looks somewhat mysterious. Because you are clearly not Japanese. I want to tell her she is correct, but no, that isn't the answer she wants. Besides, sounding like some kind of illegal alien probably wouldn't gain her trust. Why do you think that? I ask her. Is there a reason I shouldn't be Japanese? She continues to eye me. I try not to look away from her calculative blue eyes, but fail when I see them narrow ever so slightly. Your Japanese sounds strange. I can't place it. Just the way you pronounce each word leads me to believe that you grew up somewhere else. Then there is your face. I have never seen anyone with your skin color, and your blonde hair. She reaches out, and touches it. It's natural. All natural, which is something you don't see around here. Your hair is blue, I point out. There weren't a lot of people with blue hair where I come from. She snorts again. Yes, I get that a lot. Then looks back at me with the same puzzled, calculative look. But that isn't even the biggest problem. The biggest one is your height and weight. I know, I am kind of short, I tell her. It's not my fault. I tried to drink lots of milk, but nothing happened. That's not it, and drinking excessive amounts of milk is not going to work. She taps her finger on her chin. How old are you exactly? Now we are at a crossroads. People here seem to think I am in my early teens, but that isn't the case. If I tell her that I am only 12, going into 13, more questions would probably be raised, and I can imagine that I would seem even more mysterious to this doctor. I can't have that, but if I lie to her, she will know. I am not a bad liar, but I know that doctors are pretty good at spotting them. It's one of those common sense things everyone knows, especially the kids who tried to get a doctor's note to skip out on exams they weren't ready for. I am going to be 13, I tell her evasively. In a month or so. 13, interesting, very interesting, she says. She smiles. You must have been the biggest kid in your neighborhood, yes? Assuming you lived in Japan. My mouth becomes dry. This is going to be harder than I thought. Yes, I was big, I guess I lied to her. Truth was that I was the shortest kid in my class, even smaller than a girl named Hyuga Hinata. Is that a problem? Not really, she says cheerfully. I am not good at reading people. I don't have amazing abilities like that, but I already know she is faking her attitude. It's perfectly natural to have blonde hair, blue eyes, a California surfer complexion, a wrestler's compact body, and the height of a teenage Japanese boy at the age of 12. She continues to smile, and her eyes close. I screwed up, I just know it. I made an assumption that the people here would look similar to myself based on the build of Chiba Mamaru, but he must have been a rare occurrence in this place. Dr. Mizuno isn't exactly tall, and she is clearly the norm in this place. Even the nurse from a few minutes ago was probably more natural in build than Chiba. I guess the milk I drank worked, I say, trying to smile, but can't since my face feels sore. Nothing wrong with that. Yes, nothing wrong with that at all. She smiles, and then frowns in the next instant. Her face turns deadly serious. Jokes aside, you aren't from Tokyo. Your Japanese is incredible for a foreigner, and you seem to be somewhat comfortable around us Japanese folks, but you are clearly not one of us. No, I am not. Okay. You got me. Maybe I am not Japanese. So what? What happens now? I cut to the chase. I can act like a brash idiot. I can shout at her. I could probably even tell her that my name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I am the future Hokage. But I don't do that. There is a time and place for everything, and right now just trying to get a grip on my new situation takes priority. Are you going to arrest me or something? She sighs. No, you say that you are 12 years old. Our laws aren't as backwards as you Europeans or Americans lead yourselves to believe. Our standard protocol is to first find out where you come from, and try to direct you to the embassy of your nation. Okay. I don't know what an embassy is, but I like the part of bringing me back home. So what now? Now I ask what nation you come from. I gulp. This is not the question I want to answer. Whatever I tell her is going to sound stupid. Based on my talks with China, the city seems to be at peace, and they don't seem to use things like chakra power. They are much more focused on using wireless machines that use some kind of unknown power that could potentially be electricity, or gas. Yes, I am not in my world anymore. So what could I tell her? What could I say to get me out of this situation? There is really only one solution, and I have to make this sound convincing. I have to put everything I have into this, and I have to make sure not to make a single mistake. I don't know where I come from. I try not to let my voice break. I don't remember anything. They took me to a place called Juban General Orphanage. From the title of the building I can guess this isn't the place where happy children go to reunite with their parents. Not that I still have delusions like that. I gave up on dreams like that a long time ago. I think most of us poor lost boys and girls did. It wasn't like we had a choice. Whether we were abandoned, given away, or stolen from our homes, Ninja Village, remember? We all had the same attitude about our future adoption prospects. As I walk down the halls of the facility I cannot help but wonder which one is my room. This place doesn't seem so bad, and if the rooms are as large as the ones I saw earlier, I might actually like this place more than my old apartment. I wonder if they might consider giving me a roommate, but then decide against it. I have too many secrets, and one wrong move might cost me my life. Here you are, Uzumaki-san, Mamoru-san tells me. He opens the door to a small one-bedroom complex with a desk and bed. It's got a great view of the Juban Middle School nearby. I walk into the room, and the tall man follows. See that place? That's where they are probably going to register you. I nod my head at his finger, and ask him a question. You seem to know your way around this place. Any particular reason? I can already guess the answer, but I want him to tell me. I don't trust this man. I don't think I'll ever trust an adult in my life again, but I want to know more about him. He is not a bad person. A bit cold, a bit callous, somewhat odd, but he is the only person who gives me a straight answer. It's okay if you don't want to tell me. No, it's fine. He pulls out a chair, there is only one in the room, and sits on it. I still have the same problem. He mutters something under his breath, and proceeds to move the chair in an angle such that it stands up straight. No, don't think it's ever going to go away. Right. I take a seat on my bed, and jump when I feel a spring trying to impale my right butt cheek. I look back, and see that it's literally coming out of the mattress, and look at Mamoru. Not exactly what I was expecting, but it's better than some beds I've slept on, or floors I've slept on for that matter. The teen shakes his head. I know, orphanages don't exactly spend a lot of money on our mattresses, if we get those to start with, but occasionally we get saddled with the worst of the lot. He gives up trying to make the chair he is sitting on balance, and stands up. Maybe I will come over later with my tool kit. I used to keep one around here when He just gave himself away. I can see his face, it looks uncomfortable. When you lived here, right? I don't need him to say yes, and he doesn't confirm or deny my statement. It's okay, I kind of know how it is. I know what it's like not having parents. I know the shame that comes with thinking that your parents abandoned you. I know the jealousy people like us feel when we see a happy family. I know the awkwardness that comes with walking with your peers, and suddenly they start complaining about their fathers or mothers. Most of us orphans try, and stand well clear of subjects that have to deal with our parents, not because we want to, but because we don't know how to tell people politely to shut up before we stick a fist to their jaw. Yes, I suppose you would know what it must be like, he says slowly. His eyes stare off at the room. For a moment he looks at the place with nostalgia. It's as if I am not even there, like I am just part of a fixture in the room, and I grow uncomfortable the longer he does this. Right, thanks for bringing me here. He doesn't answer me with words, but nods, while staring out the window. I don't need to ask what he is looking at. It must have hurt a lot. To always get such a clear view of the kids with parents, the kids who came out of Juban Middle School with their families picking them up, while he stood in his dark room with a busted chair, and a bed that could stab a piece of metal to his back if he wasn't careful. Chiba-san, maybe you should go, I told him. Being here is probably bringing up bad memories for him. My time at the orphanage wasn't exactly pleasant either, but I've learned to put those demons behind me, or, at least, I would like to think I have. How about I come to your apartment, and get the toolbox? I am actually pretty good at home repairs. Which is true. It wasn't like anyone else was going to fix the furniture in my one-bedroom apartment. Are you sure? He asks me. He looks slightly uncomfortable. I can come back, it's not really a problem. No, I don't want to trouble you, I tell him. He has already done enough for me. Dr. Mizuno gave me the address to walk here, but it was this man who took time out of his busy schedule to bring me here. It's getting late. I look at the sun. They say Japan is the country of the rising sun, or at least from the brochure I got from the US Embassy. You probably have school, I guess. Bright and early, he mutters. I've a test on enzymes, then a lab on titration, followed by a unit on viruses. I don't understand a word of what he is saying, but I nod anyway. Do you have my card? He asks me. I pull out the card of Chiba Mamoru, Faculty of Medicine at Juban University, and show it to him. That's the contact information for my lab. My supervisor is Dr. Saicho. I don't really know why I need to know that, but I nod anyway. He gives me a manly handshake, and walks out of the door, but not before looking around the room one last time. I guess there are just some things that are hard to put behind you. Growing up in an orphanage is one of them, and I am about to add another demon I am going to have to leave behind. Being a ninja for one. It makes me sad, it makes me insecure, but I know that if I want to live in Japan, assuming that the US Embassy does not take me to the States of America, whatever that is, I have to change how I do things. I can't act the way I acted back in Konoha, and if I am to survive I need to be focused. With these thoughts in my mind I lay down on the bed, and look at my feet. I can walk now, but it'll take another month before they release me from the last of my casts, and add the next set of them. By then I will be 13. And the laws affecting a 13-year-old will probably be different from one affecting a child of 12. Not sure why, but that's how it goes for a lot of places, my old home included. Funny, really. Even when I turn 13 I have a feeling that nothing is going to change. I am probably not going to feel older, wiser, stronger, or more secure. I'll probably be the same snot-nosed kid who couldn't do a decent bunshin to save his life, literally. And I don't think I am going to feel any more comfortable with the people around me. But who knows? Things might be different. There is always a chance. Always. Months passed, people came, and people went. Most of them told me that they couldn't find ID records of me anywhere, and some even talked of deportation. It turns out that Japan is a country with a high population, and many illegal immigrants from neighboring third world nations have tried to sneak into their territory many times before. The problem is that most of them don't speak Japanese like me. Worse yet, they don't read Japanese like I can. That is usually what gives them away. Kanji is not something you can just pick up, you have to be immersed in it, and I can read like the best of them. In fact, it turned out that I could read characters that weren't even used anymore, as if I was taught in a very high-order prep school, like I was the scion of some noble. I either confirmed or denied this, of course. I wanted to give them the illusion that I was potentially Japanese even if I did not look Japanese. My height, weight, and appearance were not going to deter me from living here, and if I was careful, just a bit careful, I could pull this off. And I did. When the immigration judge saw the evidence in my favor that I was possibly a Japanese-raised foreigner, he decided to go with my case. There just wasn't enough evidence to show that I was an illegal immigrant, and unless I dropped into the country from a plane, then there certainly wasn't any long-distance illegal trafficking going on that day. So with my new identity, as Uzumaki Naruto, 13-year-old Japanese citizen, resident of Juban, an all-round foreign-looking guy, I started my life in this new city. Are you sure you are going to be okay? Mamoru asks me. He opens the trunk to his sports car, and pulls out a set of crutches. For a guy who spends a lot of time by himself, he seems to have a lot of snazzy equipment. You want me to go with you to the office? He hands me my crutches, and waits for me to use them to prop myself up. It's somewhat annoying to have him badgering me like this, but I can understand his concern. Though I am not sure how I feel about it. For a volunteer doctor's assistant, he seems to take his position seriously. He doesn't get any community hours helping me off his clock, so it's not like there is any benefit of helping me, even if I was a patient of him, and Dr. Mizuno. I'll be fine, I tell him. I am used to it. You know how it is. Once you tell them you don't have parents, things move a lot faster. They always do. When you don't have parents' offices, don't ask you for a guardian to sign you out. Though I had a legal guardian, I never met him, so I tended to sign myself out, even if I spent most of the time sneaking out. Thanks for everything. I am not sure how to say this last part. Without you, things would have been a lot more difficult. He waves his hand away. I think he is embarrassed as well. It's not a problem. Guys like us have to stick together. I notice he doesn't say orphans like us. Someday I am going to ask him why, but not today. But I have a feeling that day will come soon. See you around, Naruto. He gives me another manly handshake, and gets into his sports car. As I turn around, I notice that a group of giggling girls are pointing at him. They don't even try to cover up their frothing giggles, and sigh when he drives off into the horizon. I am dead serious. It literally looked like he was driving into the horizon. As I turn around to the direction of the school, and try not to trip on my crutches, I notice that I've got an audience myself. Mainly the student body. It probably isn't every day a new transfer student who looks like they came from a European country, that they were once allied with, comes into your school looking like he had been through a horrible accident. Fortunately, the Japanese are a polite people, if a bit distrustful of outsiders. If I look in the direction of someone pointing at me, they immediately look away, and even when they are in a crowd, there is something very meek and shy about most of them, though that could just be attributed to the intimidating presence my figure gives off. Even walking on crutches, with a cast on both legs, I am almost a head taller than the average guy in the school, which means I am even taller than the girls. It's a strange feeling, really. I've always wanted to be tall, the big man on campus, but I never got the chance. Uchiha Sasuke filled that role, along with other bullies who tried to steal my lunch money on a daily basis. I look around to see if I am going to have the same problems as I did back then, and realize that yes, I am going to have the same problems. Only this time I would have the advantage in sheer physical strength. I can say this because I spot my would-be bullies, and notice that they are whispering harshly to each other, as if to decide how they are going to approach me. Hopefully they will do it when I am not so injured. Oi Gajin! Someone shouts from behind me. I try not to sigh. I am just about to open the door, and go into the school. Why now? Why did they take this time to make me angry like this? Did they want to die? Did they want me to attack? When a hand reaches my collar, and tries to pull me down to its level, I get my answer. I am talking to you. I turn around to see your stereotypical junior Yakuza. He is taller than your average Japanese boy, but not by much, with a tough build, like he does heavyweight training or something. A small group of boys are coming toward us, most with the same expression he has on his face. What are you doing here? Don't you know this is a middle school? The airport is that way. He points to a location which I am pretty sure is the Juban dump, but now is not the time to get directional. Yes, I am pretty sure this is a school, I tell him in perfect Japanese. I can't afford to be anything but perfect. One wrong pronunciation, one wrong step, and my claim that I am probably Japanese born and raised will fly out the window. And why are you pointing to the Juban dump? He looks startled for a second, then releases his grip slightly. I take this moment to shrug it off completely, and stand, as tall as I can. In Konoha this would not be threatening, but to a bunch of Japanese school kids who are theoretically my own age, this must look intimidating. I think he might be telling the truth, Taro, one of his friends says. He has a Juban uniform on. He points to my uniform, which almost makes me laugh, since he has to raise his finger up to do so. Plus he doesn't have an accent. Taro seems to consider this, but he doesn't like it. His expression turns neutral, and he looks at the muttering children around him. Interesting that no one seems to approve of this action, but no one seems to try and stop him. I guess it makes sense. When he called me a gaijin, he wasn't lying. You see, gaijin is an offensive word that can literally mean alien. When a person is an alien, it means that they are different from you. When they are different from you, it means that they can't understand you, and you don't understand them. You separate them from yourself, and you can attach a lot of negativity to that person. That's probably what is happening right now. I am so different it's scary. Taro, let go, his friend says, grabbing his hands away. Slowly Taro does so, and walks into the crowd, but not before giving me a glare. I don't bother returning it. I've had old ladies give me worse. No, seriously I have. I've had an entire village give me that look and worse. Taro didn't like me. Probably because I am different, but my village didn't just like me, they detested me. Almost like they wanted me dead. Do you mind moving? Someone asks. I turn around to see a red-headed girl shyly finger my shoulder to get my attention. You are blocking the way. I notice that there are a lot of middle school kids who are waiting for me to enter, afraid to go in front of me. Do I really look that threatening? And why do they fear people who look like me so much? No, wait, not fear? Distrust? Did you hear what I said? I snap out of my thoughts, and bow my head to her. Sorry. I tried to open the door, but her small hands clasp the handle, and open it for me. I turn to her. Thank you? She doesn't say welcome, but that's okay with me. She looks to be older than 13, probably 14, and at least a year ahead of me. Can you tell me where the office is? I asked her, before she could get away from my sight. I don't have a map. She looks apprehensive, and I wonder for a second if she is a racist, as well. Then she points to a nearby room. Down the hall, and to your right. Before I can thank her she moves away, and into the crowds of people who give me a wide berth. It's not that they think I am going to suddenly attack them. It's probably to do with the bullies I met earlier. They made it clear that anyone who associated with me would not be tolerated. This isn't just the attitude of the Japanese. This seems to be the general attitude of any alien in any given country. I hear things are worse in some Eastern European countries like Russia, but I don't have time to worry about people on the other side of the globe. I walk into the office, and ask them for my student card. They ask me if I have my school supplies, and if I am ready to get to class. I tell them I am. They told me that my placement results came in a few days ago, and that I was going to be joining children at least my senior in the upper grades. When I asked them why that was, she looked at me with amusement, and said that I scored extremely well on the grade placement test, with a near-perfect score in math. That shocked me. I was certain that I would have scored low on the placement test since I had gotten so many questions incorrect in many sections. Then I remembered that a 50% here in Japan was a pass, and an A is something like an 80% and up. Back in Konoha we had a much stricter marking system. We also had a much more difficult school system. By the age of 12 we covered physics, biology, chemistry, kanji, and a whole list of obscure courses that most of us would probably never use. My best subject has always been physics. There is something interesting about wind speeds, acceleration, and velocity that always fascinated me. I tend to pick up on things like that more quickly than most other subjects. So can you tell me where I am supposed to go? I asked the receptionist. She smiles, stands up, and tells me to follow. Miss, can you slow down? I can't exactly walk fast right now. She doesn't apologize, and I get the distinct impression that she doesn't like me, even if she is cheerfully polite. That's okay. As long as she doesn't sabotage my entrance I am okay with her bittersweet attitude. Here you are. If you need anything just ask your teacher. She walks away, and I am left feeling very self-conscious. How will the class react seeing the gaijin enter their classroom? Probably the same way the kids in Konoha did when they realized I was repeating the year, and was saddled with them, again. Stealing my resolve I take a deep breath, and open the door, with a bit too much power, and walk into the room. I try not to act too sheepish at my oversight and strength, and step towards the terrified group of students who look like they are about to have a heart attack. I'm sorry about that, I mutter. I don't know my own strength. I really don't. Everything just seems so light, and I mean everything. Even the clothes on my body weigh nothing at all, as if they were made of silk. That's okay, a tall woman with red hair says. Since she's an adult, she doesn't have to look up to meet me at eye level. She points to the front of the class, and I walk towards the place she is pointing to. Someone mutters gaijin, and I try not to frown. It doesn't actually bother me that much, since I really am an alien in the supernatural sense, so I can forgive them. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. Class, please stop what you are doing. We have a new transfer student. The class, and this time all of them, look at me. The boys look surly, while the girls look distrustful. Actually, both look distrustful. Only the boys seem to be better at hiding it. Seems like the tough guy image is one of those constants wherever you go. Hello, I say. I guess I'll start with my name. The class looks interesting. I am guessing they are expecting me to say something like Homer Simpson from that TV show I saw last week, or John Wayne, but I am going to disappoint them. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. There are confused looks from most of them, and a few even chortle. I am 13 years old. Now there are hushed murmurs, as if I had said something wrong. Back in Konoha it wasn't unusual for children to skip grades, but it must have been an oddity here. Did I say something wrong? I whisper to my teacher. She shakes her head, but looks slightly surprised. No, but it's not common to skip a grade. You must have come from a very good school. I want to tell her that I did, but that would raise some very interesting questions that I am sure, as hell not answering. Maybe, I whisper back to her. Some of my classmates are leaning towards me to get a better hearing. I can't say I remember. She looks at me surprised, but doesn't question further. I turn back to the class. I live near the school, and I live by myself. More whispers break out. I think I made a mistake saying I live by myself. I moved here about 7 months ago. I have grown a bit in height since then, but not by much. Please take care of me. I want to make friends with each and every one of you. Damn it! I can't believe I said that. That must have come out so desperate. I look up from my bowed position, and try to assess the extent of my damage, and notice that it isn't as bad as I thought. I turn to my right, and hear clapping, and notice that it is the same red-headed girl I met earlier today. Her short shoulder-length wavy hair, blue eyes, and green ribbon are enough to give her away. Slowly a boy with swirly glasses starts clapping next to her, and they are soon joined by an overweight girl with chubby cheeks. Another 30 seconds pass, and pretty soon the rest of the class claps, as well as if I was some kind of one-man show, and starts saying things like welcome. Is that your natural hair color? And wow, you look like you got beat up by the Yakuza. Miss Haruna, my teacher, points to an empty seat next to a girl with blonde hair fashioned in twin pigtails, and I take a seat beside her. The class soon starts, with some of my classmates looking at me with a bit more interest than they originally did. Only this time they are slightly less distrustful. I pull out the books I have in my backpack, and try to follow along. Most of the math we are covering seems to follow along the lines of basic algebra, things I have already covered. I guess the placement wasn't wrong. I really do belong here. Even if I am not 14 yet. Though I will be given another couple of months, so it's not like I have a huge gap when it comes to grade skipping. Ice cream cake ice cream, the girl beside me mutters. I try to ignore her, focusing on my work instead. Ice cream no. The girl suddenly wakes up from her dream, and stands up. Her classmates roll their eyes at her, and some even laugh. Damn it, Yasagi! The redhead from earlier days, throwing a ball of paper at her. Can't you go through one class without bothering the rest of us? But someone stole my ice cream, she cries. Naru, it was so scary. Something smashes in front of the chalkboard, and I can see Miss Haruna glaring at the girl. She has fire in her eyes, and lightning sparks are flying out of her hair. Yasagi, get to the hall now. She doesn't shout, but by the way the blonde-haired girl gets up and runs, it almost seems like she does. The problem is she trips on my crutches as she tries to run, and topples over a desk. Feeling like such a bastard for putting it there, I get up, and almost fall down from the unbalance the cast puts on my feet. Somehow I manage to redirect the chakra in my body to balance myself. I am still not good at channeling it through my body, but I know how to do it. As I stand in front of the girl looking like some juggernaut, I notice that she looks absolutely terrified. Pointing a shaking finger, she barely manages to say, "Who the hell are you?" My hand is outstretched so that I may help her stand on her own 2 feet, but it's getting more difficult to keep up this act, especially while the class is looking at us like I am about to attack her. Once again no one does anything to interfere, but they aren't approving of this either. Yasagi, did you sleep through your classmate's introduction as well? A voice from the front of the room says. I thought more lightning wouldn't have been possible, but surprise, there it is. The tall red-headed she-demon stomps over to the downed form of Yasagi, and folds her hands over her chest, towering over the poor girl like some kind of obelisk. You've slept through math, English, Japanese history, chemistry, biology, physics, and this part kills me, Jim. The woman reaches down, and picks the girl up by the shoulder, For a thin lady, she has some muscles on her. Just go, please, before I really lose my patience, she says, her body quivering with furious anger. She lets go of the shaking girl, who looks at me with comedic tears in her eyes, and runs out to the hall crying. The woman shakes her head, turns to my direction, and gives me an apologetic look. I am sorry, out of all the seats I could have assigned, I had to give you this one. I shrug. Doesn't bother me. I bend down to pick up the crutches the girl tripped over earlier, and the other redhead, Naru, comes toward us, and helps us put the crutches to the side. This way no one else will trip over them, though how Usagi tripped over them makes me question her brain activity. The crutches were almost as long as her body. Soon the lesson is done, and Miss Haruna decides to spring a surprise test on us. This gets a groan from the class, and a small sigh from me. I've barely been here for a couple of hours, and I am about to face my first major test. It's not that I am angry about it, it's just that it would be nice to have a bit more spare time. I need to get a score on this test after all, otherwise they might demote me to children my own age, teens like Taro and his crew. I am not afraid of those brats, but I don't want to hurt them. Too many questions would be raised if a boy who has 2 broken legs manages to beat up an entire gang of hoodlums. My cupboard barely holds water, and anything that gives away my supreme fighting ability would be like tossing grease onto a fire. Only this fire will swallow me whole, along with my identity. You have half an hour to complete the test, then we will switch with the person 3 seats to your right, and grade them accordingly. Not a bad way to mark a test, saves a lot of time. You may begin. I take my time completing this. I want to get every question right. Back in Konoha I usually arrived late to class, so I got punished, and had to write the test late. This didn't leave me enough time to double check my answers, and those marks cost me plenty. I am not going to let that happen again. Time's up, switch, and we'll start grading. This only takes 5 minutes, and we get our tests back right away. I take a look at my score, and wonder if it's a good score or not. I raise my hand, and Miss Haruna comes towards the desk I am sitting on. What's wrong? You got all the questions right. Oh, I see. You didn't put them into sig figs. Sorry, I can't give you the marks for those. Still, 90% isn't bad. Great job. I guess it's a good mark. Before I have a chance to put my tests back into my bag, a hand reaches down to my sheet, and slips it off my fingers. I don't make a serious attempt to hold onto it, since that would have torn my sheet. Mind if I have a look? The person who snatched my sheet away says. I want to tell him to give it back before I smash my fist into his spiral glasses, but decide to be polite. This boy did clap at my intro. Just want to see how you rank in the class, that's all. I'm always looking for a new rival. Oh, so that's it. He's one of those types. Nothing wrong with that. Sure, go right ahead. I wait for him to scan it over, and smile at his astonished face. Find something interesting? He looks up from my page, and asks, You got every question correct. He looks somewhat intimidated. The only thing stopping you from getting a 100 was your sig figs. How could you make such a bozo error? We weren't taught that back in school. I don't even know what sig figs are. I ran out of time, I answered him, trying to cover for my mistake. The test was pretty hard. He looks at the sheet, looks back at me, and doesn't buy it. Sure, whatever you say, he says, frowning. It looks like we are tied. Though I got the last question wrong. The one with what angle you would have to throw a baseball at what velocity to hit the target. Don't you hate questions like that? How are they even applicable in real life? They are applicable. Just replace target with person, and baseball with can I. Yeah, I hate those types of questions. Sometimes they teach us the stupidest things in school. He nods his head in agreement, turns around, and walks back to his desk. The red-headed girl, Naru, asks him something. He looks at me, and answers quickly. Looks like the two of them are trying to get the jump on my personality, my intelligence, and what I am capable of. Not bad. I would be worried if they weren't simply civilians who barely have the capability to hold a pencil, let alone a blade. Not fair, someone shouts. I turn to my right to see the pigtailed girl who tripped over my crutches. She is crushing her test, and glaring at the ball. I want to ask her what she got, just because I am pretty sure I would laugh at it, but decide not to. Sasuke used to do that to me, and I wanted to murder that bastard every time he rubbed it in. No matter how hard I tried, I could never beat him. It didn't matter how many hours I spent on my training, homework, tests, or tutorials. He was just out of my reach. He had all the advantages, and the instructors, minus Irika, loved him. I don't even want to remember what they thought of me. Still, I guess I could show some compassion. I am sure your mark isn't that bad, I say, hesitantly. This gets a startled reaction from the girl, and she turns her perky face to where I am sitting. It's not like you could have gotten less than a 40. Half the marks were given just for writing the variables. For some reason tests in Japan give you marks not just for giving the right answer, but showing the steps. I wish they did that back home. So cheer up. If I thought that would lighten the girl's mood, I was dead wrong. She cries even harder, and many of my classmates look annoyed. They mutter something about stupid foreigners, and I get the distinct impression that I've lost some of the respect I built up from my introduction. 30%, she cries. She makes me look at the crumpled sheet of paper, and I cringe at the horror of it all. I don't understand how someone could do so bad on basic algebra. There was only one application question, which was similar to the graduation exam back in my last school. But other than that, she should have been able to get through the problems without a lot of difficulty. How am I going to show this to my parents? I try not to sweat drop. She's asking me, an orphan, about how to tell her parents she got a bad grade. She may not know me yet, but I did say in my intro that I live by myself. That should have given her some clue that the topic of parents should be stayed away from when talking to me. I am sure they won't care that much, I tell her. I gave her back her test. You can do better next time. But my mom said she would kick me out of the house if I got anything less than AC. She yells. I won't be able to buy my favorite food for a month. She won't give me any arcade money anymore either. I nod, pretending that I understand her. Well, tell her it was a hard test. That could work, but she would have to have some kind of evidence. Just get one of your friends who scored low to come with you, and show your parents their mark. Her eyes looked at me in shock. That's brilliant! She grabs both of my hands, and brings it up to her face. Her eyes have stars in them. It's sort of creepy. You really are a genius. Not really. Just smarter than you. Well, I don't like to brag, but I have been called many things, most of them with the word dead last attached to it. Ah, I am so jealous. You sound like you don't have any trouble in school. I try not to let my fake smile slip. I hated school. I despised school. I almost failed school. I failed the exam 3 times. I hated the teachers. I hated the kids there, and wished the place would have burned to the ground. Nope, I like school. My old school was great. She returns my smile, then looks at my crutches, and blushes. Sorry about earlier. I kind of fell asleep halfway through your introduction. She scratches the back of her head sheepishly. I try not to laugh at how hilarious her face looks. She's a strange girl, this Usagi. I was up all night, studying video games. Someone finishes for her. The redhead from earlier stands behind her friend, hands folded over her chest, with a glare fixed on the blonde's back. Honestly, how Tsukino-oba puts up with you, I'll never know. She turns to me, and smiles. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We met earlier, didn't we? I nod my head, and lean against my chair. I think so. You're the one who told me how to get to the office, right? She nods, and I continue. You also opened the door for me earlier. She looks somewhat uncomfortable, and before she can respond I answer for her. It's okay. Those guys weren't that bad. I sort of get that a lot. When I mean a lot, I mean always. Everywhere I go there is someone who wants me dead. That wasn't right, she mumbles. You shouldn't have had to deal with that. Someone should have stopped them. You were just coming into the school, and they surrounded you like that. She looks somewhat shaken. Sorry for how I treated you earlier, but I didn't want those guys to see me. She looks around her classroom. Fortunately, everyone is too busy fighting with Miss Haruna about their grades. Taro and his gang aren't bad, but they are connected to the Yakuza. I finished for her. I clench my fist at the thought that I might have to deal with someone more formidable than expected. This is another thing I hate about Japan. It's the country of open organized crime. Very few places in the world have open mafias. For Kami's sake, these bastards run their own brothels, strip clubs, casinos, illegal drug stores, and banks. And the police don't do shit about it. Hey, what's wrong? Usagi says, looking between the two of us. Did I miss something? She puts a finger to her chin, and tries to think. Oh, I know. You didn't bring lunch, did you? Nera sighs, and puts her hands in the air. You're going to see this a lot if you stay near her for too long. Grabbing the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl by the arm, the redhead drags her away. As they leave the room, the boy with glasses, from earlier, taps me on my shoulder, and points to where the girls are probably heading. You want to have some lunch? I want to tell him no, but the growl in my stomach gives me away. I'll take that as a yes. I stand up, and he goes to the wall to get my crutches. I thank him, and he starts talking about the school. After a bit of a hassle, we manage to get some food from the cafeteria, and join Neru and Usagi outside. It's while I am outside that things start to look grim. This school consists of teens aged 13 to 15 if my calculations are correct. Most of the kids in the upper years are about my size, but the kids in the lower years have barely begun to blossom. Usagi and Neru are in my senior year, so they've already started growing, and although I don't think they'll grow much taller, based on what I've seen so far, they are actually a decent height. The guy with the glasses on the other hand looks pitiful in comparison. How I managed to make friends with girls this far out of his social standing, I have no idea. My 12 years in Konoha haven't taught me much about the female gender, but I did learn that girls liked hanging around strong men, even if they were incredible bastards. It didn't particularly matter if they treated them like crap, like my one-time classmate, Hyuga Niji, or my most hated one, Uchiha Sasuke. The fact that Naru and Yusuji overlooked this person's physical weakness and accepted him for what he is, an annoying, pesky, scrawny, caring person, shows me that they are different from my classmates Sakura and Ino. I don't think I've ever seen the two of them say a single nice word about any of the less fortunate boys in my class. Sakura constantly talked about how horrible I was because I had no parents, while Ino made fun of Chuji, which was kind of sad considering how he sort of had a crush on her. Come to think of it, I had a crush on Sakura too, even if she treated me like garbage. If you're wondering why I am starting to realize this now, it probably has something to do with dying, death. It gives you a new perspective on life. Why are you getting up? Yasagi asks me, as I stand, and takes my lunch with me. She looks up, concerned. Is it those people? She points to Taro and his group. They look like they are going to start something. We'll stand up to them. She looks terrified, but she wants to help me. I turn my head to the shaking Naru, and the glowering glasses-wearing guy. I should really ask his name. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with it. I just lost my appetite. It's hard to eat when half the field is talking about you, and not in a positive way. Rumors have already started circulating about how I hurt Usagi, and by this time tomorrow they are probably going to get worse. I take the long way around the field to my class to avoid any large groups of boys. I discovered that Japanese boys are extremely brave when they are in groups. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because of their society, which promotes group work, or maybe it's because they all have something to prove, but in either case being near any large groups of testosterone-charged assholes is asking for trouble. As my crutches make their way into the school front I hear footsteps behind me. I wonder for a second if it's Taro, and turn to meet the person with a frown. My frown turns into a scowl. Why are you following me? The person looks surprised. Why shouldn't I? She tilts her head. Unless you don't want me to follow you. You don't have a reason to, I point out. She opens the door for me, and I try to walk away from her. I hate my limp, I hate it so much, it makes it easy for the smaller girl to catch up. Besides, I am used to being alone. No one likes to be alone, she says, huffing, as I increase my pace. Besides, I have to ask you something. I stop, and turn around. My scowl, if possible, is getting longer. This isn't about your test score, is it? She looks down. Maybe. I click my teeth. Okay. So it's my test. I sigh, and rub the back of my head. What do you want me to do? She looks up, and I can see a smile form on her pixie-like face. Wait, don't tell me you're going to use my idea from before. She grabs one of my larger hands on both hers. It feels so light. Please, you are the only one. My mom just needs to call Naru's mom, and that's it. Her large blue eyes fill with small tears. I won't ever be able to go to the arcade again. Don't you think that's so evil? Not really, no. Yes, absolutely. I take my hand back, a little disturbed at how informal the girl is with strangers. I start to think of a plan to get out of this mess, and come up with blanks. It looks like I've dug my own hole this time. Alright, what time? Her smile lights up the sun, and she jumps into the air with a yada not unlike a loud-mouthed girl I used to know. Really? You mean it? You're dead serious? Looks like she isn't as truthful as she first appeared. Interesting. Please tell me you aren't joking. I look at the small crowd of kids approaching, and decide to make this quick. Turning to her, I say, no, I don't make promises that I can't keep. I die before I break a single one of them. You have yourself a deal. Great, she says, then looks puzzled. Deal? Then what do you get out of it? Don't know yet. I'll think of something later. I get to spend time with a friend? Yeah, right. Like you would consider someone you just met a friend. You probably think I am some kind of weirdo, don't you? In response, she hugs me. You are the best. I am so shocked at her unusual display of affection that I don't even defend myself. You're the nicest guy ever. She lets go, and runs the other direction. Wait till I tell Naru. She said you wouldn't agree. Lousy best friend thinks she knows everything. Before I can tell her to slow down, she might crash into someone, which she does a minute later. She is already leaving my sight. Told you she would be trouble, a voice says from behind me, as Miss Haruna walks past. Hurry up, Uzumaki, class resumes in 5 minutes. I called Chiba on a payphone, telling him that I was going to hang out with some friends. He asked me if they were girls, and I told him at least 2 of them were. For some reason he warned me to be careful, and I told him I would. Though I was skeptical why he would do that in the first place. I mean, what kind of harm could girls do? The answer might surprise you. If you ladies don't mind, I think I am going to step out for a bit. If I have to sit through one more shop while you two try on clothes, let's just say something bad will happen. The two ignore me completely, as I limp out of the store with my crutches. I try not to let it bother me. I mean, I only have one more day on these. One more day, and I can safely remove them. Me and my trusty crutches finally make it to a nearby park, next to the plaza where Naru and Usagi are shopping, and I sit on a bench. Fortunately, it's not too crowded, so not many people give me strange looks. There is the occasional old Japanese woman, who may or may not want to tell me off, but almost all of them give me a wide berth. And I thought I was a pariah in Konoha. Pretty soon the sun starts to go down, and I wonder if Usagi really wants me to talk to her parents, or if this was some ploy to go shopping with them, so that I might judge if this dress made, insert girl, look fat. I wanted to say yes every time. You're doing it wrong, a child's voice says. You're not supposed to pull the tail like that. Pull? If you want to make it into a hamster, why not just cut the tail off? Another voice says. We've been trying to pull its tail off all day, and it's not working. All day. Pull tail? I don't like the sound of this. Sighing, I limp towards the noise. Fine, so we couldn't pull it off completely, big deal. The first voice says. Get the knife, we'll finish it now. Nice. The second voice answers. As I get closer to the noise I can't help but hear the mewls of agony from some kind of small animal. Whatever it is, it must be in that small ring of 10-year-old boys. I can see the shape of a black figure in the center and, to my disgust, a bit of blood. Hey, what are you kids doing? I shout, limping faster to get to the animal. Hey, I am talking to you. All four kids look at me, look at my crutches, then look at my height, and gulp. In one swift motion they fall over themselves trying to escape, and one of them smashes into a tree, while another falls into a small koi pond nearby. I don't bother helping either one of them. Not when I see what's in front of me. My God, I say, my voice breaking. What have they done to you? I bend down to pick up the small black animal, which mildly resembles a cat. It mews in my hand, and nips at my finger. It must still think it's being attacked by those groups of boys. I look at the fleeing kids with a bit of anger. But no, I can't harm them. They are just kids after all, cruel kids, but kids nonetheless. The cat starts biting into my finger, and I don't make a move. I just let it go. I have to earn its trust. If I move my hands away too quickly it will be afraid, and think it's still in the care of those little monsters. I just hope it realizes that it's not in any danger soon. My healing factor from my old world is still in effect here, but it's not as powerful as it once was. If I get a slash on any part of my hand, it's not going to magically go away within the next few hours. Maybe in a day, certainly in a week, but not instantly. It's okay, I tell the kitten. I walk towards the bench I was sitting on. I take a seat, and try not to flinch, as its sharp teeth dig deeper. Those kids must have truly tortured it for it to go this far. I don't know much about cats, other than the fact that the daimyo's wife had a cat named Tora that I once saw a bunch of ninjas chase. But I know this isn't normal behavior. I am not going to hurt you. For some reason the bite lessens. This is puzzling. Really, those kids are gone. You're okay. Then it stops. It stops biting me, and looks up. Large feline eyes look at me with hope. No, that's impossible. An expression like that is far too human. I must be imagining things. Cats don't understand human speech, and cats can't act according to specific words that carry emotions. I may not be the sharpest kunai in the pouch, but even I knew that. If cats were like that, I would have gotten one. After all, I really could have used a friend. One that understood what I said. One that I could have vented my frustrations to. Meow, it says. It stands up, wobbling on my outstretched arms. I bend my arms down onto the bench, and it slowly walks to it. I flinch when I see its tail. The base looks like it's been mauled by a bear trap. That looks terrible. I reach into my school uniform, and pull out a handkerchief. For some reason they seem to keep a copy of it in the uniforms. No idea why, and I don't really care why either. I used it to make a makeshift bandage, and tie it around the cat slowly. While I do this I am amazed at how calm it's acting. Almost like it was a person. No, that's not right. Even calmer than a person. Most people who get bandages don't stay perfectly still. They flinch, and complain. This one doesn't even make a sound even when I jam my fingers into its bloody tail to stop some of the bleeding. All it does is look at me, its eyes never blinking. Meow. It's a bit creepy. Meow. Yes, very much so. All done, I tell it. I pick it up, and check to see if there are any other injuries, and am satisfied to see nothing else. Well, I've done my good deed for the day. Would be nice if someone would do something good for me. I am sorry I couldn't do more. I can't believe no one stopped this. A park full of people, well, I guess not full, but still. Someone should have done something. Meow. I know, sometimes these guys make me so frustrated. Then again, this is the country where dolphins get their throats cut while children walk past them in the island district. The video I saw of that still freaks me out. Curse you internet. But then they are so similar to the people of my own home. The cat suddenly looks interested. Its eyes light up with curiosity. Oh, you want to hear my story, little guy? The cat actually nods. I am not joking. Okay, so I will give the kitten a brief description about my life, about my village, about my world, my upbringing, and my old home. The more I tell the cat, the more fascinated it seems to get. Pretty soon it nods its head to some of the more interesting parts of the story, and looks sad when I tell it the more painful parts of my story. It's as if it cares about my feelings, which doesn't make any sense, but that's the impression I get. When I tell it about how the people in my home used to treat me, it actually licks my hand, and tries to cheer me up. I can't help but smile at antics like that, and I try not to cry when it rubs its head on my hand when I tell it about my death. All in all, it was a very emotional, very awkward, and a very painful experience, but when I am done with my tale, I feel so much better. I feel free, and I feel like a huge weight has been lifted from my shoulders. Meow. The cat crawls onto my lap, and starts to close its eyes. Meow. It falls unconscious. I must have worn her out with my story. I guess I tend to ramble a lot. Give me a reason to talk about ramen, and I'll write you a book by the end of the week. Hey Uzumaki-san, someone says. I turn around to see Naru and Usagi running towards me. I wave my hand at the two, and tell them to be quiet. They look annoyed, as I do this, but understand why when they see the cat. Usagi is the first to react. My goodness, it looks awful. Agreed, Naru says. Did someone try to pull out its tail? Not someone, some kids. I take off my school uniform jacket, and wrap it around the cat, then look at the two of them. Can any of you bring it to the vet? I am not allowed pets in my home. Naru looks like she is about to ask why, but holds her tongue. The redhead instead shakes her head, and looks helpless. I have to help my mother with her jewelry store sale. It's going to be a big one. Sorry, Usagi says, and she looks like she really means it. I am already in enough trouble with you know. I nod, but don't like it. Then I guess I'll have to figure something out. I stand up. Naru, you said your mother is going to give you a ride home. Can she make a quick stop on her way? I got a container from the pet store, though I am ashamed to say that it was Naru's mother who purchased it. She's a nice woman, if a bit daring. The first thing she asked me when I met her was whether or not I was Naru's boyfriend, by which I replied with a quick no. It's not that I think Naru is ugly, it's just that I have bigger problems right now. Staying alive for one. When her mother heard about the kitten, and how I found it, she told me that I was a person with an amazing heart. And I told her that it was not a big deal. She told me that not many people would have gone out of their way to help a stray. And I told her that back in my village, people would. Of course that was a lie. People in my village would have probably stomped the stray to the ground. But it was a nice thing to say. When I got to the orphanage, I had to get special permission to keep it in my room, at least until it was better. They told me that I would have to take it to the pound afterwards, and I agreed to their conditions. It's not that I dislike cats, it's just that I don't have time to take care of pets. Pets are a huge responsibility, and I can hardly take care of myself. The cat would be better off with a richer owner at the very least. What could I possibly offer it? Meow. The cat jumps onto the bed, and crawls close to my pillow. I turn to look at it, as I lay on my bed looking at my ceiling. Slowly it starts to rub its head against the pillow next to me to get into a better position, and starts to fall asleep. You're a strange kitten, you know? I told her. The cat looks at me blankly. Heh, if I didn't know any better I would think you are frowning at me. The cat purrs aggressively, and makes a slashing motion on the pillow. Easy there, I was only joking. It's one smart cat, probably the smartest cat in the world. Wonder who it belongs to? Just relax, and take a rest today. I'll take you to the pound, and everything will be okay. I slowly close my eyes, and the cat purrs. Yeah, everything will look better tomorrow. Before I fall asleep, however, I reach up to the cat's forehead, and slowly peel off the bandage to get a look at the injuries it has underneath. Finding nothing but a strange yellow crescent moon, I am tempted to put it back on, but decide to leave it out while I sleep. I'll take care of it tomorrow. Wake up, someone says. Now, I groan, and pull my head in another direction, and mumble. Iruka-sensei, you're not supposed to wake me up to go to school. We aren't in Konoha anymore. Wake up. No. I am so tired. Spending last night just walking with Usagi while on crutches took a lot out of me. That was one experience that I sure don't want to repeat. Go away. I refuse to go away, young man, till you listen to me. The voice was strange. It sounded like one of those British nannies that run those Catholic schools down the street. By the moon, I've been trying to get you up for the last hour. There is something very wrong with an older woman saying that early in the morning. Sighing, I pull my head out of my pillow and look around the room. This is strange, there is no one here. I was pretty sure I saw something before I got up, but it was a blur. Shrugging, I decide to go back to sleep. It's still early, but something scratches me under the covers, and I resist screaming as it digs further down my leg. What the hell? I jump off the bed and roll onto the floor. A large thud is the answer to my pain, and I see something beside the bed rails. It's the cat? Oh, it's just you. I smile and get up. For a second I thought I saw a ghost. Rubbing my temples, I walk back into the bed, only for the cat to bite down on my feet. What's wrong? The cat is glaring at me. This isn't good. Did I roll over and crush it in my sleep? You okay? No, Luna is not okay, young man. Oh shit. I've been trying to get you to talk to me since dusk, and I will be damned if I let this chance slip. What the hell is going on? Are you even listening to me? The cat says, turning away, as it looks annoyed. Insolent boy, you can't even give me a PS response. Probably because I've never talked to a talking animal before. Sure, I know of their existence, but from my readings of this world they tend not to have any animals that can talk. Sorry, I say. I sit down on the bed and rub my eyes. You were saying? Now it's the cat's turn to look surprised. You don't seem that fazed by my appearance. It looks somewhat puzzled. Aren't you going to scream? Deny I exist? Or run away? I look at it blankly. Why, you're just a talking cat? I shrug. I've heard of talking animals before. There are a lot of them back in my world. The cat looks thoughtful and looks down. Yes, I imagine there would be. It shakes its head and looks at me with consternation. But I am not here to talk to you about your world. Probably not. Right. I gesture for the cat to continue. So what are you here for? I am here to make you an offer, it says, almost reluctantly. I am here to give you a chance to save the world. I burst out laughing. I hold the sides of my stomach as I consider the sheer absurdity of the situation. This kitten is asking me to be a hero? This kitten, who was almost mauled by a group of boys, thinks she can make me an offer I can't refuse. What is wrong with her? Is it normal to start making demands from someone who saved you? Deciding to humor her, I let her continue. Go on, I say, trying not to break out in laughter when the cat's eye twitches. Please tell me what you want me to do. The cat looks suspicious at my attitude, as it should be, and meows once, before resuming. I want you to use your ninja skills, as you say, to complete a certain task. A task that may save this planet. From what? Is she talking about global warming? I want you to help me fight the Dark Kingdom. What the hell is the Dark Kingdom? I see you aren't familiar with the Dark Kingdom. Good, so perhaps you aren't a Yuma. No, don't think I am a demon, though someone did call me that once. The thing is, I never saw that guy again, like the police arrested him, and just never let him go. A Yuma of the Dark Kingdom works for the evil Queen Beryl, who is sending her armies into Tokyo to steal life energy from people. What the hell is life energy? Sounds sort of like chakra. So they are killing people? I ask. No, she says, shaking her head. But they are absorbing their life energy, which makes it hard for them to function. How hard is it? You mean make them retarded? Put them in a coma? No, just a bit drowsy. Perhaps sleepy, nothing major, the cat replies. I frown. This Dark Kingdom doesn't sound so evil. But rest assured they are bad. Even if they aren't killing people, they will once they have conquered their hidden objective. How do you know that? I ask. Are you a part of the kingdom? I am a part of a kingdom, just not the dark one, it says proudly. I am a member of the royal court of the Moon Kingdom. I look at the cat blankly, look at its crescent on its forehead, and try not to punch it. It's been through a horrible ordeal already, and I think it's still trying to recover from its last injury. Maybe those kids did something truly horrific to make it think like this. Did they smash its head against the wall? They must have been utter bastards, traumatizing the cat to the point where the poor girl thinks it's some kind of royal space kitten. I think I am going to go back to sleep, I say. Good night, Luna, mews. I am the Queen's advisor, you know? Queen Beryl? I ask. I thought you were against her? No. It gasps. Queen Serenity. You see, we are fighting a war right now. Our side is the Moon Kingdom. Their side is the Dark Kingdom. It's a battle against good and evil. Smells kind of fishy to me. No, I am not talking about her breath. And what exactly happens if your side wins this war? I ask the poor cat, who scowls under my calculative gaze. You plan to turn this place into some kind of Moon Kingdom? Of course. The Moon Kingdom was the most peaceful civilization in history. It says, as if I asked a stupid question. Our power expanded to all the 9 planets of the solar system. Suddenly this peaceful kingdom sounds like hardcore imperialism. Good night, Luna, I say, ignoring the rest of the cat's explanation. Hopefully when I wake up I'll find out this was all some strange dream. Wait, don't go to sleep. I need you to help fight the Dark Kingdom. I can't locate the Sailor Senshi, and we need them to defeat the Dark Kingdom. Mr. Uzumaki, please don't sleep. And her voice fades away, as I try and collect some nice needed Z's. Turns out that whole talk with Luna was not a dream. Also, she seems to be under the impression that I have accepted being a guardian of Tokyo, of a sort. Since she hasn't found the Sailor Senshi, she has to rely on me to keep the forces of evil at bay. From what I am getting, these forces of evil collect human energy, and use them as food. I asked Luna if they commit crimes, and she told me that they did, but not in the murder/rape nature. Petty thieving and low-scale fraud seem to be the majority of their actions. For some reason, I can't help but feel like I am going to be one of those superheroes who fight bad guys far, far weaker than themselves. The thought is at least helped by the fact that I am probably going to fight them with a pair of crutches and the basic ninja arts, so maybe my enemies and me aren't that far off in terms of skill level. Now be on the lookout for any and all villains, it whispers into my ear from my shoulder. To anyone watching this, it must look like my cat is licking my earlobes. If the people of Japan thought I was strange before, oh boy, I've just introduced another level of weirdness, which is saying something when you consider how this is the country of hentai. I've already found activity of one of the Dark Kingdom's henchmen. I nod my head, barely listening to the cat's explanation about how she saw a demon enter the jewel shop near the place where I found her. I think she wants me to go in there, use whatever ninja arts I remember to kill the creature, and save the people the demon has been sapping energy from, free. Are you paying attention? The cat asks. This is very important. The fate of the entire world rests on your shoulders. The only thing resting on my shoulder is your heavy body. Right, the fate of the world. Evil monsters, magical princess, castles, and evil queens. Sounds like some bad children's fairy tale gone wrong. Listen, can we talk about this later? I have to see my lawyer to take care of some legal documents today. I even took a day off to do this. The cat looks thoughtful. Yes, you may do that. It hops off my shoulder and walks beside me. By the way, you never told me how you got those injuries on your feet. Probably because I have no idea how I got them either. Just like how I don't know who killed me. It's a secret. Earn my trust, and I'll tell you. The two of us proceed the rest of the way in silence, until the cat decides to break it. For what it's worth, I am sorry. Why? I ask. Not your fault that the fate of the world rests on your shoulders. Not your fault that I died, and I happen to have some skills that can help. I know that, she says. For some reason most people don't seem to notice the cat talking. I'll have to file that thought for another day. It's just that the responsibility of fighting evil should rest on the Sailor Senshi. Not your fault you can't find them. I lean against the wall and massage my thigh. You're just a cat. Don't get me wrong, you're one smart kitten, but you don't exactly have a lot of mobility in a world of humans. The cat sniffs her high nose at me. Shows what you know. I know my way around a computer. I can find the Senshi easily. If I wasn't so busy fighting the forces of evil, for good reason I don't believe that. Pretty sure you need opposable thumbs to work a keyboard. Anyway, you had best follow me. Your first mission awaits. And so I follow my annoying talking cat into danger. Well, it could be worse. I could be going into battle with a rat, gerbil, crow, puppy, or a frog. Now I am no genius by the normal sense. I can't figure out extremely complex problems without putting lots of effort. But it doesn't take a godforsaken genius to figure out when you are in your classmate's store. Especially when said classmate is in front of the store arguing with her mom about the prices on jewels. Mom, you can't. Nara screams. Why are you giving away all of our gold? Interesting, I wonder if I should grab a couple. I look around me, and spot a pair of earrings. The diamonds on them must be worth a year's supply of ramen. I reach down to grab a pair, when the kitten on my shoulder scratches my neck. Great, I have a cat with morals. Naru, how about we talk in the back? Her mother asks. For some reason I can see a purple light come off the tall red-headed woman. Luna must have picked up on this since she motions for me to follow them, like I am some kind of soldier. Being the nice guy that I am, I do, as instructed, and get a good view of her mother's rear. It's very nice. I am no judgmental of feminine beauty, but if it makes me feel mildly hot looking at it, she must be doing something right. I really need to get my mind out of the gutter. Stop that, the cat says, scratching my neck. I don't ask her why she does this. We both know the answer. Your friend might be in trouble. I want to correct her. I don't have any friends, but the glare she gives me leaves little argument for what I am about to do next. How the hell am I going to take on some kind of demon when I can't even move my legs? Eventually the two of us sneak behind the back of the shop, where the mother-daughter pair are arguing. Eventually Nara says something, and her mother slaps her on the face, making the girls sway. I am tempted to intervene now, but Luna nips one of the toes that stick out from my cast. It's not time yet, she says. Wait for her to transform. This way we are sure that this is a demon. Pretty sure this is a demon to me. Normal people don't give off purple light, but it's the cat's call. I am just a part-time hero for the day. A part of me even wants to lose so that I don't have to keep fighting, and maybe Luna will find some other hero. There, she says, she's transforming. And what a transformation it is. The tall, stunning form of Neru's mother is slowly degenerated into a tall purple skeleton-like creature that I wouldn't touch with the tip of my dead, rotting penis. I am a bit disappointed, I tell the cat. I kind of wanted to fight her in another form. Would have been interesting to get a fondle or two. The cat looks like it understands what my plan is. You're a bit of a pervert, aren't you? I am tempted to show her my Naruto-chan, and see what she thinks of it, but decide against it. Better save that number for the day my legs work. Okay, I am going to direct you from a distance, do whatever it is you ninjas do. The lousy feline jumps off my shoulder, and hides under a table. If I had a kunai on me, I would throw it at her. Sadly, I am armed with a pair of crutches, a pen in my pocket, a bloody handkerchief, and the casts on my leg. Yeah, I am definitely prepared for a battle. You want some of this, bitch? Mother, oh, what have you become? And Neru suddenly collapses onto the floor, and slams her head against something hard, knocking her unconscious. The evil demon pretending to be her mother looks at the girl surprised. I don't think she expected to take care of her that easily, but I guess even the bad guys get lucky sometimes. After all, one of them did manage to get behind me, and tear my head off. I back away slightly, and my crutch decides to take that moment to hit something. This, of course, alerts the 6-foot-tall demon to look my way, and snarl. It opens its mouth revealing rows upon rows of sharp yellow teeth. Its hollow black eyes try to pierce through my soul, and its long purple nails are expanding. I try not to gulp, or look afraid. Like animals, these guys likely smell weaknesses. Instead, I decided to do the smart thing. Turn around, start limping away, and hope she doesn't decide to follow. I actually get a fair distance before my cowardly cat runs out of her hiding place, and screams, "What are you doing? Use those shadow clones you've been telling me about." I would, if I had any confirmation that I could still produce them. I only ever made one of them, and that was only once, right before I was killed. Not sure how much help one clone could be against that giant behind me. Behind you! My cat screams. Duck! Instead of ducking, I do one better, and jump onto the floor. My casts make a heavy thud, and one of my crutches slips to the ground. Before I can reach for it, a hand grasps my bottom cast, and pulls me to its direction. I suppose it could be worse, it could have grabbed higher, and that would have been awkward. Well, what do we have here? It purrs. You're a big one, aren't you? No, you're just freakishly huge. You must have a lot of life energy in you. Probably, but I don't intend to find out. Like a baseball player, I swing the crutch I am holding onto like a bat, and smash it into her face. The demon slams back against the desk, and falls over backwards. Not giving her time to make a comeback, I throw my crutch like a spear, right to her face, getting a yelp from the creature, as it holds onto its left eyeball. What do you know? Her wrinkly face is easily penetrable. The tip of my crutches weren't even sharp. Great work, Uzumaki, the cat says. It looks at the towering abomination, as it stands up. But perhaps you should use those ninja arts, no? Luna, I don't even know if they work in this world, I tell her. I haven't channeled chakra in almost half a year, and I don't want to do it now. Why not? The cat asks, growling. Don't you want to protect your friend? Don't you want to save her mother? Don't you want to keep the promise you made to me? I want to tell the girl cat that I made no such promise, but I have enough problems to deal with. Don't you want to save the world? Don't you want to be a hero? That line gets to me. Hero. Yes, I want to be a hero. I've always wanted to be a hero. I've tried to do the right thing many times before, but all my deeds were spat back in my face. I tried to be strong, so I could protect my village, a village that hated me no less, but my reward was a swift blade to my neck. Yet despite all of this, there is a raging part of me that wants to be liked by people. No matter how much I distrust people, how much I might be bitter at them, I still want them to like me. Maybe even love me. Uzumaki, are you okay? The cat asks. You seemed distracted for a moment. It was nothing. I coughed to get rid of the awkward moment. Anyway, the first thing to do is to get Neru out of here. I look at my cat carefully. I need a distraction. You need to give me a distraction while I carry her out of here. The cat looks reluctant, then I see the light bulbs in its mind flashing, and I can tell that it has some kind of idea. I just hope it's not the kind that could get me killed. I am betting on more than just my life. I have an idea, it says, walking towards the Yuma, which seems to be coming towards us at a breakneck speed. Bad joke. Meet me outside, the cat says, jumping towards the demon, and clawing at its face. Run away, and my ghost will haunt you for eternity. No, you won't. Cats have 9 lives. I am sure you'll make it out of this in one piece. Come on, Naru. Luna's going to buy us some time. I sling the light girl over my shoulder and start limping away. I use my remaining crutch as a walking stick. Almost out. Okay, we're here. We are in the street right now. It's dark, so it's fairly empty, plus it's late. I call a cab with my whistle, and I push the girl into the back, while handing the driver enough money to at least drop off the girl somewhere safe, which probably wouldn't be far since I gave the guy 600 yen. Uzumaki, prepare yourself, Luna screams, coming out of the store with the demon behind her. I laugh at the sight of the furious creature holding its face, which seems to contain slash marks. It made me rather angry. Really? I can't tell. Stand aside. Luna moves out of the way, as I fling the pen I had in my pocket at the monster. It doesn't even try to dodge it, which is fine, since I replace it with myself the next instant, sending my fist at her jaw. The monster is flung back through the store's glass window, sending shards of glass in all directions. At the same time I topple to the ground, holding my fist on my other hand. I grit my teeth, as my face makes impact on hard concrete pavement, and I look up to see the demon jump out through the hole in the window the next instant, its body covered in glass. To my horror, the thing doesn't seem to be bleeding, and it smirks at this. Thought you could injure me? Don't kid yourself, human. I am a demon of the Negaverse. I don't bother asking what the Negaverse is. Probably a parallel dimension or something. Once I've taken care of you, I will hunt down the pretty little redhead, and kill her very slowly. It smiles an insidious grin. Can't have anyone giving away my cover, no? Still gritting my teeth at the pain on my hand and face, I push myself off the ground, and try not to look away at the morphing face of the creature. It continues to change into something more dead than alive, and my shaking hands aren't helping me feel very comfortable about the whole situation. See, I have this fear of ghosts, and by the look of the decaying thing, this is about as close as it gets to the undead. Without warning, the Yuma charges through the glass-littered floor, smashing the pavement, as it runs, and kicks me off the ground, and to the telephone pole. As I try to stay conscious, Luna screams at me to duck, as a swipe narrowly misses my head. Thinking fast, I push my foot back, and slam my heavy cast into the creature's stomach, but not before powering the kick with a bit of chakra, sending it hurtling down the street, and onto a trash bin. There. That's more like it. I know you could do it. I believed in you. Lousy cat, don't count your chickens yet. I don't even know if the body switch, and that brief channel was a fluke. It might just be a one-time thing. Standing up, I look down to my feet, and see that the cast on my left foot is busted. No surprise, I just used it like a battering ram to smash the creature's ribs. Speaking of which, the thing is pissed. I hear a deadly shriek, as both sets of its claws extend from the tips of her fingers, and try not to flinch, as her long hair moves in the wind behind her. Those claws look sharp, sharp enough to cut wind, and turn me to mincemeat. This is not good. I need more time. Reaching out for the chakra in my body, I put my hands into a cross, and create a shadow clone. It works. It actually works. The shadow clone looks at me, then at Luna, then at the demon, shrugs, and charges the creature. Since the clone isn't made of flesh, it isn't limited by the physical disability of myself, but it sure as hell isn't as durable as me. It seems to know this, since it is careful to dodge attacks, and uses distance tactics to keep the demon distracted. Come on, we have to find cover, my cat says. This way. I have no idea why I listen to the creature's tactics, since I've been trained to fight battles like these at an early age, but from what she's told me, she's been through situations like this. There. The silverware, use it. She points to a row of silver knives. I grin, and grab a large butcher knife made of silver. Why anyone would make something like this, I have no idea. No one said the rich were practical. Your leg healed? I think so. We were supposed to remove them today, I say. I take a deep breath, channel chakra into my hands to strengthen it slightly, and start cutting off the cast on my other leg. Once it's off, I feel kind of strange since both of my feet are on the ground. How is your balance? Horrible, I want to say. Can you fight? Is that even a question? For good reason, a memory of being stabbed flashes through my mind, and I realize that my clone has died. Crap, I needed more time. At least enough to get a better feel on my feet. Looking around desperately, I see a jeweled Japanese katana with a gold hilt. Once again, the rich are not practical, and run out of the store to meet my attacker head on. It stops midway and smiles. Well, I've taken care of that pest. It puts her hand on her hips, pretends to be sexy, and says, come and get me, big boy. I try not to vomit. Of course I want to hurl when the demon comes at me at a faster speed, and punches me straight in the guts, lifting me off the ground, and tossing me into the air. Biting down on my tongue, I refuse to scream, and pull the blade out of its sheath, and slash down at the arm. The creature screams, as its arm is severed from its body, and continues its assault with ferocity. "You bastard, you son of a bitch!" It screeches, and looks at the arm I cut off. "I'll kill you! I wasn't even serious about torturing your friend, but now you'll pay." Landing on the ground on my left foot, I look ahead of me, and hold the sword like a baseball player. With one hand I gesture for her to come, and get some, bitch, and she runs at me the next instant, her face contorting into a skull. I've got her where I want her. I can do this. The angle is just right, the speed is just right, she's let her guard down, I have my guard up, and just a little bit more, one step more, and I can make a clean slice through her neck. And that is exactly what I was about to do. When a rose lands between the two of us, causing the running demon to stop, look up, and duck, as another half-dozen roses land onto the pavement. I wanted to scream. I wanted to scream at the injustice of it all. I had her. I totally had her, and someone interrupted our match. I look up, my furious eyes alight with fire, at the figure who supposedly saved me, and see, Batman, I've come to your aid, fellow defender of truth and justice. Truth, and what now? Do not lose hope, for with our combined forces, we shall prevail. The figure opens his cape to reveal a tall man wearing half an opera mask, a black tuxedo with a large top hat. I am not making this part up, and a pimp cane. For I am a Tuxedo Mask, enemy of evil, and friend to all who oppose the darkness. Yeah, I'm sort of speechless too. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.